I think we can all agree that From Software's Soulsborne games are all known for their gritty, grimy, gloopy, glumpy worlds full of death, despair, and horrors beyond human comprehension. And also that one monkey that flings shit at you. But here's the question. Which game is the jolliest? Which one has the highest levels of merry? Which one is the most likely to make you go, ho ho, holy fuck? What I'm asking today is which one of From Software's Soulsborne games is the best Christmas game? And I'm going to explore this topic using the very scientific method of judging it by vibes. So first off, what makes a good Christmas game? There's 5 crucial things you need for a good Christmas, in my jolly opinion, and those things are snow, Santa, a Christmas tree, Christmas food, and the most fun part, the presents. When it comes to the snow, there needs to be as much of it as possible, so I will look for the game with the most amount of snow. Santa is pretty self-explanatory. I'm simply looking for the closest thing to a guy with a big ol' smile dressed in red. A Christmas tree needs to preferably be a dressed up spruce, but I can already tell that no such thing is going to exist in any of these games, so I will yet again just look for the closest thing. We also need good and edible Christmas food, which means I will look for the game with the most consumable food items, and I'll also look at how Christmassy the food actually is. And finally, when it comes to the presents, we all know that giving is way more fun than receiving, so I will look for how often you can give things to NPCs in these games. And whether they like my gift or not doesn't matter, it's the thought that counts here. With that said, let's start with Demon Souls. So first of all, I'm gonna judge Demon Souls' Christmas vibe off of the remake, since it's the version of the game that I have access to. There's obviously gonna be a vast amount of differences between the original and the remake that could impact the final score, but I'm choosing to make things easy for myself here. If you want to get upset about it, that's totally fine, but let me remind you, you are getting upset about a video ranking all the Soulsborne games as Christmas games. There are better things to be upset about. Now, does Demon Souls have any snow? And if so, how much? Well, it doesn't have a dedicated snow area like a lot of the other games will do, later on. But I'm pretty sure in the original, the Giants area was supposed to be a snow area. But as far as what we've got, there's specks of snow here and there in the castle portion of Boletaria. So as far as snow goes, Demon Souls is, much like my own writing skills, pretty unimpressive. So, thing number 2, is there a Santa anywhere? Well, the only human-looking thing that appears in red are the phantoms, which appear in other games too, so I can't really say it's very unique. But it was the first game with phantoms. They are, however, hellbent on killing you, which is decidedly not what I wished for this Christmas, or, come to think of it, any other Christmas in general. And sure, yeah, there's a few white bearded dudes, but none of them really give off Santa vibes, in my opinion. But what about a Christmas tree? Is there anything even remotely similar in Demon Souls? No! The closest thing to a lit tree in the entire game, as far as I can recall, is the one in the Shrine of Storms that's lit up for a whopping 0.01 seconds. So what is Demon Souls serving us for dinner? Well, it's a big-ass salad consisting of grass and lotuses. Yeah, so Demon Souls didn't know that you're a vegetarian, so they didn't prepare any dishes for you, so you're just sort of left eating this salad, and for festivity's sake, some flowers from Grandma's garden because she just felt really bad and wanted you to have something a little bit more exciting than a bunch of leaves. Thank you, Granny, your garden tastes great. But as far as Christmas vibes go, this is terrible. The best it gets is the spices you can smell in between your bites to remind you of Christmas. Now finally, how many gifts can you give in Demon Souls? According to my own knowledge and some perusing of the Fextra wiki, you can give a gift to people 4 times in the game. You can give the Searing Demon Soul to Blacksmith Ed, you can give Stockpile Thomas what's left of his daughter, you can give Setsiki a sword, and you can apparently give the Crest of Vinland to someone named Selen Vinland, but I've never done that, so I'm just trusting the wiki here. Although you can only give out 4 gifts in this game, the recipients all seem to really appreciate the gift, and one of them is even so excited he just has to try it out immediately, even if you are the unfortunate victim of this test. So what's Demon Souls' final score on the Jolly meter? I don't know. I would score all the games, but since they're not actual Christmas games, believe it or not, they're gonna score very low anyway, so it just sort of feels unnecessary. I think it's more fun to just rank them all at the end to see how they stack up to each other, so let's just move on to the next game, Dark Souls, and then at the very end of the video, we'll do a final review of the results. So how does the forecast look for Dark Souls? Well, John, we've received information from Anne Orlando, and the gods are saying that any doll owners that are looking to stay out of the snow should steer clear of any giant paintings. There has also been reports of minor snowfall in and around the jail, so any undead that are looking to catch a flight this holiday season should be wary of slippery conditions. But to be serious for a very brief moment, Dark Souls does have a lot more snow than Demon Souls, which is a very good start. There could, of course, always be more of it, but for what it is, it's pretty good. So what about Santa? Well, just like Demon Souls, Dark Souls does have red phantoms, but luckily, Dark Souls also has someone even better than that. Your boy Ingward here is red from top to bottom, and not only that, he gives you a key. So, in other words, he gives you a present. Sure, he has severe Plague Doctor vibes and is not nearly rotund enough to be lore accurate, but I don't mind. He gets a gold star for me. But on to the next topic, is there any sort of good Christmas tree in Dark Souls? Well, you've certainly got plenty of trees that would look great if they were dressed up, but there's no tree that is dressed up and glowing with holiday spirit like a proper Christmas tree should. And like none of the trees really grab your attention either, except for the mega huge trees, but they're not really the correct shape either. Even though the giant trees would look great if they were dressed up, inherently they don't really elicit any sort of holiday cheer in my spirit. But surely we can find some good food, right? Well, it's mostly a similar experience to Demon Souls, but the platter has been expanded a little bit. First, you have a spread of moss flavors to enjoy, and with the DLC, you can even enjoy a mushroom or two. Beyond that, if you feel like you've been really bad this year and you want to get off the naughty list, you can chug some holy water. Other than that, there's nothing new, and it's worth mentioning that if you did enjoy the wide variety of leaves in Demon Souls, you're now sadly stuck with one flavor. Even though we're still just eating a salad, I'd argue the salad in Dark Souls is better than Demon Souls if you factor in the variety of textures. What can I say? I'm a guy that values textures. As far as how jolly it is, it's got the classic red and green combo in the color scheme, so it's at least on par with Demon Souls. On par since Demon Souls had the spices which I'm just assuming smell Christmassy. Now finally, how many gifts can you give in Dark Souls? Well, you can give as many as you want if you're counting in Covenant items, but I'm not counting them, because it is unfair to the games without Covenants, and I've got all achievements in Dark Souls 3. Which means I've got trauma, so Covenants are banned. Excluding Covenants means you can give a total of 12 things. You can give some moss to Siegmeyer, Artorias' soul to Kieran, and I'm choosing to count the 10 embers as gifts too. I've excluded transactional things like giving Firekeeper souls to increase your flask efficiency, because a gift isn't supposed to be transactional, so you would think that I would exclude the embers too. The reason I'm including the embers as gifts is because 1, the blacksmiths all seem very excited to receive them, which makes me feel great, and 2, you don't have to use their new services after you've given them an ember, which makes them feel less transactional as gifts. At least it does to me. But overall, Dark Souls did pretty good, and it certainly was an improvement over Demon Souls, so let's see if Dark Souls 2 keeps up that trend. As far as snow goes, Dark Souls 2 certainly has its predecessor beat if you include the DLCs. Basically, the whole of the Ivory King DLC is covered in snow from top to not bottom, and because it's a DLC, it's easily big enough to outdo Dark Souls 1's painted world. But what about the cookies and milk addict dressed in red? While there's plenty of dudes with big beards and larger physiques, none of them come close to wearing anything like that iconic red suit. If Gilligan, King Vendrick, or Carhillion dressed in something even just a shade redder than their normal outfit, they could easily fulfill the role of Santa. Grandel gets an honorable mention for the sheer size of his beard, but he's so frail that I don't feel particularly cheerful upon seeing him. He looks like if Santa got hit with severe depression and then coped with meth. So in terms of Dark Souls 2 Santa levels, I would say that it's about on the same level as Demon Souls. Is there a better Christmas tree though? Uh, maybe? Like, my brain must just be turned off, but the only, like, significant trees that I can think of are the giant trees. And sure, I would love to see them dressed up in colorful balls and just covered in glitter, but, like, other than that, they're not really that jolly. I mean, in the lore, are they not, like, giant corpses? I'm pretty sure that's not very great. I wouldn't dress up my dead grandma. If you know of a better Christmas tree candidate in Dark Souls 2, put it in the comments, because I, for one, just cannot quite think of one. But as far as I know, Dark Souls 2 is about on the same level as Dark Souls 1 when it comes to Christmas trees. What's for dinner then? Well, I hope you're hungry for more salad because Grandma's Garden has expanded its services. There's the usual suspects like from Dark Souls 1, but now you've got even more stuff like some new herbs, strawberry flavored holy water, a few bursts in flavors of lemon, watermelon, and blue raspberry, my favorite, a common fruit which does not look common at all, a couple of spices like in Demon Souls, different flavored balms, and tastiest of all, a bug. Aside from the variety of color, this is still not very Christmassy in my opinion. Yes, you might find it a little hard to believe, but my family does in fact not eat bugs during Christmas dinner. But still, I will give Dark Souls 2 some credit for having the largest variety in food items so far. But how generous does Dark Souls 2 feel about giving presents? I'm honestly a little disappointed because there's only 3 moments where you can give things to NPCs in this game, at least by my count. You can give Rosabeth a set of clothes, a dull ember to Macduff, and a petrified egg to Magerold. Or is it Magerold? Magarold. I don't know. It's a dumb name. It's a bit of a shame to see that Dark Souls 2 is so bad at giving, but in its defense, it probably couldn't spend any souls on any fancy gifts because all of those souls had to go toward all of that adaptability. But let's move on to the next game, which is Bloodborne. I'm gonna go over this very briefly and without fact-checking myself because I haven't actually played Bloodborne. I've only watched that loud Irish guy play it a couple times, and I'm actively trying to wipe my mind of all knowledge that I have of the game before I play it myself. So going off of what I can remember, is there any snow? I mean, I think so. In that area with like all the bloodsuckers and like the ghost ladies. I think it's called Canehurst? Maybe? What about the guy? I mean, there's that one guy. Father Gascoigne or whatever. I think he has a white beard, so I'm pretty sure that's like on par with Dark Souls 2 at least. Christmas tree. I mean, there's a lot of trees in the game, so perhaps, mayhaps, I don't know. But what about the food? Yeah, food. The only food that I know of, if you can even call it food, is the umbilical cords. But other than that, I mean, you got the pigs. That's like halfway to a Christmas ham. But how about the gift of giving? Shit. Alright. Merry Christmas, little one. Your mom is dead, and I killed your dad. You can now apply to become the next Batwoman. Or maybe not. Warner Brothers would probably come after you. I do have to point out, though, that Bloodborne is very red due to all the... you know. And considering that, I do think it's worth giving Bloodborne a few extra points for that. Anyway, I hope that brief segment was enough to satisfy the Bloodborne coverage, because I am swiftly moving on to Dark Souls 3. This is my personal favorite out of all the From Software games that I've played, so I really hope that it does well as a Christmas game too. So first off, snow. I am happy to say that there's quite a bit of snow with all of Irithyll and the Ashes of Ariandel DLC. Going purely off of memory here, I can't quite remember if Irithyll combined with the Ariandel DLC is enough to outdo the Ivory King DLC from Dark Souls 2. After all, Horsefuck Valley is rather large in order to fit that endless supply of reindeer with cocaine problems. But I think Dark Souls 3 wins here for me, because I like that you have 2 distinct areas with their own flavors, and the Ivory King DLC, although big, mostly feels like one area, maybe 1.5. Could it be that my own bias is getting in the way here? Oh, for sure. Anyway, Santa. I am happy to report that Dark Souls 3 has a wonderful Santa, and his name is Gale. He has a jolly red costume, a big and somewhat white beard, and he is so dedicated to his job that he will go to the end of time to track down the perfect gift for an artistic child. Blood. I feel very comfortable saying that Gale is the best Santa representation we've seen so far, and I also feel pretty confident in saying that I think he will beat whatever Sekiro and Elden Ring has to offer. Like, whoever realized that Gale is such a perfect Santa has to be, like, really cool and awesome and beautiful, and everybody likes them because they're so cool, awesome, and beautiful, and smart, too. I know what you're thinking, really funny self-appreciation joke, haha. It wasn't me who came up with that idea. Anyway, Christmas tree. What kind of woods do we have to choose from here? Well, there's a couple of decent choices. The first one being in the Lake of Hot, the giant trees. Not only are they bolt-proof, they are also, much like everything else in the surrounding area, lightly on fire, which means they glow. Which means they have something in common with the Christmas tree, which also means they are 2.4% jolly. I would, however, argue that there is a better choice for a Christmas tree, and that is in the Undead Settlement. There's this tree here with the Evangelist and Workers, and it is also on fire, which means it also gets the 2.4% jolly bonus. On top of that, this tree has ornaments like Sandra, Jimmy, heck, even Bill is here. It's not very traditional, sure, but I would still say that this is the best Christmas tree we've seen so far. And before I move on to the next topic of food, I do have to point out, I know there is another tree with ornaments, but I'm drawing the line here. I know I just praised the last tree, which was decorated with human corpses, but at least it was decorated with friendly, familiar faces. The curse-rotted great wood, on the other hand, is decorated with threatening, unfamiliar testicles. And a good Christmas tree should not make you feel sexually assaulted upon merely looking at it. And now that my appetite has died and lost all of its souls, let's talk about the topic of food. Unfortunately, Dark Souls 3 does not have as wide of a spread of things you can eat compared to Dark Souls 2, but it does have one major benefit. It has actual food. We've finally done it. We finally have Estus soup, and it is served hot off the stove not only once, not only twice, but thrice. I mean, the last one is even cooked by yours truly. So as much as the spread is smaller, the fact that we've got actual food now, and not just salad with bug, is enough for me to award Dark Souls 3 with the best Christmas food so far. Sure, I don't really associate soup with Christmas, but I'll take what I can get. But let's get to the final point. How many gifts are we giving out here? Well, Dark Souls 3 is out here handing out gifts like it's trying to apologize for being in the same franchise that brought us the Beta Chaos. You can give the Transposing Kiln to Ludleth, Loretta's Bone to Greyrat, a Firekeeper's Soul and Eyes to the Firekeeper, the Blood of Santa, the Dark Soul to the Painter, 4 coals to Andre, and I've gotta say, for someone that's receiving 4 pieces of coal for Christmas, Andre seems pretty happy about it. There's 13 scrolls and tomes for Cornflakes, Toph, Snape in his 20s, and iCarly, 10 Umbral Ashes to give to the Shrine Handmaid, and of course, giving Sigurd his armor back. This totals to an impressive 33 gifts, and there's technically a few more. NPCs that die tend to drop their own ashes, and these ashes can then also be given to the Shrine Handmaid. And moreover, Orbek's ashes in particular can be given to Yuri of Londor. I'm choosing not to count these specifically because they require people to die, and that just goes against the spirit of the holidays. In conclusion, we keep leveling up with each game, and Dark Souls 3 did pretty fucking well according to my criteria. But let's see how a very different game does. Let's see how good of a Christmas game Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is. So first of all, there's not a whole dedicated snow area in Sekiro, which already puts it way below most of what we've already seen. However, there's specks of snow here and there throughout the entire game, which gives off that magical first snow vibe, which certainly earns it some points at least. So do we have a decent Father Christmas? I mean, yeah, there's your surrogate Father Owl, but like beyond the white hair, he doesn't seem very jolly. In fact, he seems very upset with me. I think it's worth pointing out the sculptor too, since he does kind of have a white beard and he's sort of wearing red. But guys, I'm gonna be honest, this is not a good Santa. This is Santa if he had gone on a heroin binge and then was left out in the sun for 3 days. But is there a good Christmas tree? No, there is no good Christmas tree in Sekiro as far as I can remember. I've been going through Sekiro a lot lately, and sure, there's a couple of spruces that could be dolled up. Other than that though, there's just a bunch of sakura trees, and as much as they are gorgeous, they don't really give off any Christmas vibes, not to me at least. But are there nutrients with sufficient levels of merry? Sort of. There's loads of rice, which is at least part of a good meal, and there's also some persimmons to enjoy. They are not what I think of when it comes to like Christmas food, but on the other hand, Sekiro is the first game which just so happens to have candy. There are 5 flavors of candy. You've got red, you've got angry red, you've then also got blue, silent blue, and greed. I have no idea what these taste like, I can only guess, but Christmas candy is an essential part of the experience, for me at least. So good job, Sekiro. Alright, present time. What do we got? Or rather, what are we giving? We give a total of 23 items by my count, and that includes giving the 4 types of sake to Ishin, Emma, and the Sculptor, Water of the Palace to the Noble Dude, Dragon Tears, Frozen Tears, Lotus of the Palace, Shelter Stone, and Rice to Kuro, and you can also give the old lady some rice on 3 different occasions, I think. However, for the truly dedicated, if you really want to, you can technically give infinite gifts by feeding precious bait to the giant carp. You can technically get infinite amounts of this bait by killing the dogs in Fountainhead Palace, which means infinite gift giving. So all in all, Sekiro did pretty well, but let's wrap things up and get on to Elden Ring. Does Elden Ring have a good amount of snow? Oh, absolutely. The mountaintops of the Giants and the Consecrated Snowfield both clear Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 when it comes to the amount of snow, which is not at all surprising when you consider that Elden Ring is an actual open world game. If game big, then snow area also big. It's a very simple equation. So Elden Ring easily wins when it comes to the amount of snow, but what about the guy? Well, we've got an individual with the most lore-accurate clothing so far, and that is Kale. I mean, come on, that's literally Santa's robes. Like, what did you do? Did you hurt him? I will find out if you hurt him. Other than him, you've got another white-bearded man, Godfrey, but he lacks the correct shape, and in his first phase at least, he has the wrong color scheme. Second phase, I mean, he's as red as you can get. And I mean, I suppose Mesmer is like dressed in red, so I mean, that's like at least 1% closer to Santa. I still think Gale takes the prize as the best Santa here because he's the closest to having the correct shape. He's got all kinds of red clothing, and his hat is also pointed. Like, come on. He's also Gale. Enough said. Tree. I'm tired of even remotely trying to write segues anymore. Because trees are so prominent in Elden Ring's lore, it makes sense that there are plenty of trees to choose from to be a Christmas tree. I could go over all of them and spend another 20 minutes doing that, but there's really no need to, because we can all tell which tree is going to be the clear winner here. The Erd tree is not even remotely Christmas tree shaped. However, the sheer amount of light pollution that it gives off is enough to put any American suburban neighborhood to shame. This thing will blind you, and because of its size, you cannot escape it. You will look upon this massive Christmas tree, whether you're on the very north or south of the map. It just cannot be competed with, so I've got to give this one to Elden Ring. You've got the best Christmas tree. However, do not ask me about how you would fit it in your own house, let alone your own zip code. Yes, there's a vast spread of food in Elden Ring, at least in terms of meat. It doesn't really care if you're a vegetarian. There's loads of cured, pickled, and dried meats. There's seafood. There's even scorpion stew. I don't even know if you're supposed to eat that last one, but like it's there if you want to try it out. Is Elden Ring's platter better than Dark Souls 3 though? Sort of. When I think of Christmas food, I think of meat-based dishes because that's just how I've grown up and it's how I eat now. So inherently, I do think that Elden Ring's platter is a bit more Christmassy than Dark Souls 3's. I would have liked to see a better spread of food to account for more diets here, but ultimately I do still think that Elden Ring takes the prize here, but not by a lot. You should never underestimate the power of a good soup. And finally, dear God, finally, how many gifts can you give out in Elden Ring? 62-ish. I simply went to Fextra and checked the key items list, and I basically looked specifically for which items you give to an NPC, and judging by my rules of excluding purely like transactional things, it amounted to 62. I'm not gonna go over what all these gifts are because there's simply far too many for me to bother. We can already tell that Elden Ring clearly wins here when it comes to giving out gifts. That is, if you discount the Fish Covenant in Sekiro. So it doesn't take a genius to see that Elden Ring clearly is the best Christmas game, judging by my set of silly rules. If I were to rank them all, judging by what I've said earlier, Elden Ring would be at the top, then it would be Dark Souls 3, followed by Dark Souls 2 and 1, and then it would be Sekiro, and then at the very end, it would be Demon Souls. Oh, Bloodborne is off floating in space somewhere. I can't put that on the list. I haven't played it. Honestly though, it feels a little wrong. Like, the only reason Elden Ring really wins is mostly because it's just the biggest Soulsborne game that From Software has made so far, so obviously it's way more likely to win. So as much as Elden Ring is the winner here, I'm not quite happy to end it on that note. So how about this one instead? Christmas means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It is a holiday that has Christian roots, sure, but with each passing year, it's becoming a commercial holiday more and more. A holiday for anyone and everyone who wants to celebrate it. Because Christmas means so many different things to so many of us, the question of which From Software game is the best Christmas game can have a completely different answer if answered by you, your friend, or someone across the globe from you. And that's kind of beautiful, isn't it? Like, we all celebrate the same holiday, but we do it in our own way, and even though we're now asking the same question, we all have our own answer. And in this case, I think the most important answer and the most interesting answer is your own. If you want to do something as you're recovering from Christmas dinner, think about which From Software game is the best Christmas game in your opinion, and if you arrive at an answer that you would like to share, the comments are down there. I would love to see what you guys think, and I certainly hope you enjoyed this video. Now, a few things before I really end the video. I know that I didn't go over Night Rain, but that's because this script was already getting far too long. But also, I have a lot of my own opinions on Night Rain that I kind of want to put into one separate video that I kind of think of making. I'm not entirely sure yet, but if that's something that you would be interested in, then let me know in the comments down below. Oh, and before signing off, I would be so stupid if I were not to say just a huge thank you for the immense support on the previous video. That made me smile for like weeks. I don't upload videos very often, as you can probably tell in between last upload and now, but when I do and they actually perform well, it makes me very, very happy. I do want to point out though, now that I've got more subscribers here, if you're looking for more regular like content, I'm sorry to say I'm gonna disappoint you. That is just the unfortunate truth. As far as making videos go, I'm running strictly on inspiration, and I'm never gonna force out a video if I don't have an inspiration to make a video. This is, after all, just a hobby of mine. If you want more regular stuff from me, I would definitely recommend my streams. It used to be over on Twitch only, but I do also stream on YouTube now as well, so you can tune in. I'll put up the times here when I usually stream. And in case you ever forget, you can always check my schedule over on twitch.tv/xcwordx. And with all of that said, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, morning, day, night, whatever it might be, wherever you might be, and I hope to see you all some other time. And, of course, happy holidays. There are 5 things you need for a good Christmas, in my jolly opinion, and those things are snow. Why am I holding up this hand if I'm doing it with this hand? There's apparently 7 things now.